We all know Albert Einstein, right? The young Australian physicist who split the atom in order to give beer bubbles, invented rock and roll music and surfboarding. Wait, what? I'm talking about Young Einstein. It's a 1988 movie made in Australia featuring Yahoo Serious as Albert Einstein. Now, if you're not familiar, this is Yahoo Serious. And yes, that is his real name. He changed it in 1980 from Greg Gomez Pede. Once an amazing Australian director and writer, he released 3 movies before completely disappearing off the face of the earth. So let's take a look at one of my favorites, Young Einstein. This movie takes place in Tasmania in 1905. Albert Einstein is working on his parents' apple farm, and although his parents want him to continue working the family tradition of this apple farm, destroying more wildlife so they can build their orchard even bigger, Albert decides that he wants to be a pacifist and wants to use science in order to help civilization, rather than just destroy it and keep farming apples for the rest of his life. This film is probably one of the most accurate representations of Australia. Just take this little bugger for instance.
Tasmanian devils. Eat anything, they will. There's one of the mongrels now.
So, he's out there on the apple orchard, eating the apples, eating shovels. You do not want to know what happens if in real life you wander into one of their lairs. Holy crap. And especially, we always just bathe with kangaroos. Everyone knows that. And it's finally good to see it portrayed accurately in a movie. So after an accident occurs, where Einstein gets a bucket load of apples onto his head, he starts to realize that what goes up must come down, and starts working more on his theory, eventually launching himself off a catapult into his parents' house, and coming up with the theory of E equals mc squared. Although his dad doesn't initially approve, he decides to give his son a shot, and introduces him to the problem that has plagued mankind for generations. The problem that beer has no bubbles. And how does beer get bubbles? Well, by splitting the atom, of course.
All I have to do is split this beer atom. Where's that chisel?
It's after this scenario that his dad finally starts to believe in him and that he may have something. He's put bubbles into beer, for God's sake. Alright, so his dad says he must go to the mainland, must go to Sydney, and he must go to the patent office and basically patent this idea that he's had for bubbles into beer. It seems like none of them know the repercussions of what he's actually done, but it does get into that a bit later. We have here one of my favorite montage scenes ever. So he's traveling from Tasmania. I'll get a map up. So he's traveling from Tasmania up to Sydney. But he manages to, it seems like he goes all the way around. He ends up in snow-capped mountains, the middle of the desert, and what looks like Uluru or Ayers Rock. And these are just all over the place. So he's definitely gone completely around and just cocked it up, even though he has his fancy compass. After finally finding his way in what would have been weeks, if not months of walking, we get to a place that this actually scared me as a kid. Yep, a skeleton. I was terrified of skeletons when I was younger. And this, again, accurately represents Australia. This guy was here for so long, waiting for public transport. He just died, turned into a skeleton, and his train had still not arrived. If that's not the most accurate thing about the public transport system here, I don't know what is. And this is when we get introduced to the other two main characters of this story, Preston and Marie Curie. So the name Marie Curie should sound familiar, but we'll come to that in a minute. Preston is played by John Howard. Now for those in Australia, not this John Howard, but it's actually this John Howard. Better known for shows like Always Greener, or you probably know him from Mad Max. Preston is a dick, always trying to weasel his way into everything, Marie Curie included, and he is the most amazing mansplainer in the world.
Do you know how a gramophone works? It's really very simple. The little needle picks up these vibrations.
He is the villain of this piece, and it's usually from him being too simple to understand the concepts that Einstein's come up with, but also the extraordinary jealousy that he feels because of the attention that Einstein is getting from Marie. The way Einstein acts here is yet another good representation of what it's like on public transport in Australia.
Et voilà. Ça. See?
G'day.
You'll get on the bus, you'll be just living your own life, you're off in a corner, feeling nice and comfortable, and on comes this guy with the most stereotypical thick Australian outback accent and starts spouting off this gibberish that seems kind of intelligent. Although nowadays that's more of a meth problem than anything. Einstein is so humble here, it's adorable. He's super quiet and just shy, and the way he talks about his revelation of splitting the atom, it's just damn cute.
Splitting atoms.
You've heard of this theory to split the nucleus of an atom?
Split one once.
You've already split the atom.
Well, it was only a Tasmanian beer atom.
Again, we've got some more great music playing throughout this movie. And if I haven't mentioned it before, it really is perfect. It's the mixture of just the environments, the music they play over scenes, and everything's great. And it's not just the tracks that they've commissioned from different artists, but it's the score that they've done for this movie themselves. I think I might actually make a playlist of this, but I'll also put subtitles under the video so you can actually look the music up yourself. So our Frazzlehead hero finally makes it to Sydney, finally makes it to the patent office like he's promised his dad. But it's obvious due to his appearance, the way he talks, the way he acts, and just his overall crazy hair, that he is perceived as some sort of lower class that possibly couldn't have a great idea worth patenting. And one of the best lines, well, one of the most quoted lines by my mum, is right here.
But it's all in my head.
Well, what do you wish us to do, sir? Patent your head?
Dejected and not reaching the goal that he came for, Einstein decides to go check into a hotel, home of the world's largest bed. And decides not to take it, because yeah, he's humble. Instead, he just wants a room with a window. Don't we all? Anyway, let's take a look at this room, because it is absolutely filthy. Even the little wah wah when you see certain elements of the room, it's just great timing.
Right. Well, here it is. The penthouse. With ensuite bathroom.
From here, Einstein comes up with one of his other well-known inventions. While hearing some kids playing hopscotch across the street, he hears them singing 1, 2, 3, 4, and realizes that there's something there. And he invents...
I've just invented a new musical theory. Roll and rock.
Yeah, Einstein invented rock and roll. That's true. Look it up. Again, the music in this scene is just purely awesome. Here's a link to it. Okay, so going on from this roll and rock that he has found out about, he decides to try build something that can basically electrify music, can intensify it and make it louder. So he invents the electric violin. Now, please do not try this at home. If you invent an electric violin that you plug directly into a wall socket, do not take it into the bath. Please? With his new invention almost killing him, he decides, hey, this is something I can take to the patent office. And I guess, in a way, make my dad proud. But this leads to one of my favorite lines I have ever seen in a movie. And it constantly makes me laugh.
It electrifies music. It electrifies music, does it? Just what we need.
You do?
I think it's just the fact that someone getting super excited through a misunderstanding and just being really into it gets me. Probably because I do that a lot in my life.
You do?
Well, obviously it was not what they wanted.
And stay out.
Because once again he gets ejected from everything he tries to do. So instead he's going to head off to Sydney University to meet up with Mary. I just said Mary. Okay, no longer Marie, she's just Mary throughout this entire thing. So he heads to Sydney University, and I can tell you, I went to Sydney fairly recently, and it looks exactly the same, even down to the sheep. So he meets up with Mary and sees that someone in the classroom is working on the exact same equation he is, although much more convoluted and without a proper answer. So what does he do? Goes in there and starts scrubbing it off and writing in his own answer to it. Now, I hope I don't get claimed for this, but this music I really want you to hear. The way that the score they've done lines up with the actions happening in the scene. This just always feels beautiful to me whenever it's done in a movie, and should be done a lot more, because this is really noticeable and just adds something to the scene. Okay, so yeah, he gets thrown out of Sydney University. It's not that hard. But he does. But there's one thing I noticed that I had never seen before in all my viewings of this movie, and that is this. There is an awkwardly long kissing scene going on in the background, and it's not so much that it's a kissing scene, because that stuff's hot, but it's just the fact that it's lips locked, just standing there, no movement. I thought at first it was just a still image and they'd green screened him on there or something, but no. He's actually there. It's awkward. It's weird. And I'd only just noticed it. 31 years on, and this movie is still giving. Alright, Einstein and Mary go on a bit of a date. He tries to scrub himself up, puts on some nice clothes that kind of make him look like a bullfighter, and wrangles his hair into something that doesn't resemble overgrown pubes. And it's really cool in the scene because he arrives early and sees some people dancing, and I just wish I had some of that energy and flexibility. He figures out the beat and just starts doing his own crazy dance. I guess in a way you can see here that he invents break dancing too. So during their date, he actually comes up with another Einstein theory. And this time I'm not joking. He comes up with a theory of relativity while looking at a clock with Mary. It was actually kind of cool. But I remember as a kid I used to skip this scene because it seemed very, very boring to me. Mary convinces Preston to give Einstein a job in the patent office, which Einstein actually did work in a patent office, so it's kind of cool. But he's a bit of a bumbling idiot when it comes to everything apart from his work and science, and continuously gets stuff wrong, and skipping ahead a few scenes, manages to get himself fired. But anyway, let's get back into order for a few seconds. I love this scene when he writes a letter to his parents.
I have met a wonderful girl. I will write again soon. Your loving son, Albert. P.S. I think I have almost discovered the key to the universe. He's met a girl!
His parents, classic parents, the only thing they focus on is...
He's met a girl!
So there's a bit of a weird scene here. It's kind of a cutaway that to me doesn't add much to the movie and seems like it was made to just fill in. Did you know that Einstein invented the surfboard? Well, yeah, he did apparently, according to this documentary we're watching. Anyway, it feels like something to fill in the time. Because, yeah, he's done all these weird inventions like the electric violin, roll and rock music as he puts it. Does any of this actually mean anything to the plot? Well, yeah, actually. Everything but the surfboard. The surfboard doesn't come back into it. So yeah, Einstein gets fired from his job. It happens. But he's sitting in his room and Paul Kelly's All the Dumb Things is playing, which is another fantastic song. Link should be right here. But yeah, anyway, I love this scene because all the kids from the street come in to try cheer him up and then they all start dancing around and it's just really wholesome and nice. But because of Preston being a dick, that doesn't last long. He finds out from a newspaper article that Preston is building basically a giant thingy that can split the beer atom and create bubbled beer. That's not good. So off Einstein runs
The beer production.
down to the Bavarian Beer Company and decides basically to confront them. All they need to do is say that he's crazy and he's taken to the lunatic asylum. By the way, this dude looks like Stephen Fry. Yeah?
You're crazy.
Okay, Einstein's off to the lunatic asylum, which, yes, is a very depressing place if you listen to the music when he first gets there, and they destroy his violin, but it's kind of cool because there's a few little side characters that show up now and last until the end of the movie. There's Ernest Rutherford, who you may know as the father of modern nuclear physics, as well as Aspirin, who says that he's in there on drug charges. Now, yeah, they don't add much to the plot, but they are there and they're kind of funny up until the end of the movie. This is quite possibly my favorite act of the movie. Everything's gone to hell, Einstein is stuck in an asylum while Preston can continue doing whatever he wants with the formula, and it's just a really kind of depressing tone, depressing environment, art style, but it's balanced with some really awesome comedy notes. So Marie has found out, hey, we're back to Marie, she's found out that Einstein is now in the lunatic asylum and wants to visit him. Well, they keep denying her entry, so she does the most classic disguise ever. And that is dressing up as Einstein's dad. Now, there is no way in hell this would work, everyone would see through it, but that's the great thing about suspension of disbelief in comedy. And it just works so well here. Marie enters the men's shower, and Einstein and her are reunited. They share a very passionate kiss. Now, this is such an obvious fake disguise, as I said before. The beards come off, they're having a kiss, she's talking like a lady, he's called her Mary, but it's not until the hat comes off that we find out
The largest beer cake in the world!
He's a woman.
Rather than wasting away in prison and due to Mary's prompting of wanting a man of action, Einstein decides it's better to escape the asylum and not waste away, rather get out there and try fix what Preston's going to do, because it could be supremely dangerous. How does he decide to escape? Well, remember how his violin was broken? It gets better. Also, if anyone ever wants to build a guitar that looks exactly like this and is functional, I'm open to purchasing something like that. I absolutely love the lighting, framing, and just general art direction of this scene. Just the depressing colors, but the feeling of power you get from Einstein walking through the halls and just feeling like it's a march into battle. Makes me all tingly. Alright, so Einstein's broken out of the asylum and he's heading back to his hotel. I did skip over a part that was a little bit distressing where the chef is putting kittens into a pie. They do get rescued. But yeah, just playing that audio last night while watching this stressed my cat out, so I wasn't going to do that to anyone else. Einstein gets back to the hotel trying to find a trace of Mary, and it turns out she's left him a letter and gone back to France. So yeah, Mary's gone back to France. So what does our hero decide to do? Get on a teeny tiny little boat and head to France. So I did some calculations on this. Assuming that he is going the speed of a regular sailboat, which is about 20 kilometers an hour, and France is about 16,960 kilometers away from Sydney, that equates to about 840 something hours or 35 days. Pretty sure whatever was going to happen with Preston would have already happened, but at least we didn't get another montage of him cycling through Antarctica or Africa or going through the Americas or something crazy like that. Although, depending on the music, that could have been awesome. Finally, our hero makes it to France, and before he can enter the scene, we're seeing Mary and her parents having a discussion. Well, actually no. We're seeing her parents have a discussion, saying that Mary should not follow the sciences, and she's a woman and she should know her place. Super outdated, and even more awkward when it zooms out and they're just having a conversation right in front of her. So Einstein and Mary have a discussion saying that, yeah, this isn't good. He could basically be creating an atomic bomb and destroy life as we know it. So they need to go to the academy that's presenting this award and stop it. Here we get introduced to yet another famous historical figure, Charles Darwin. Now, he's not some Australian bogan or anything like that. It actually seems like they wanted to try get Charles Darwin-like figure in there, which is cool. But anyway, Preston rolls out his gigantic beer keg, and almost immediately they figure out that yes, it is a giant atomic bomb that could destroy a fair freaking chunk of the world. He calls Darwin a silly old man, saying that no, it just splits beer atoms, pulls the lever, and instantly realizes what he's done.
That metal is a gigantic atomic bomb. Mr. Preston! Stop! It's harmless, you stupid old man! Look! It is a bomb!
So, Preston, congratulations, you've started an atomic chain reaction. How do you stop that? Well, if you've actually researched this, Einstein had one theory. And you know what that theory was? There is literally only one way to stop an atomic chain reaction. And that's to plug an electric guitar into it. Yeah, I didn't say the Albert Einstein. Just said Einstein. So I meant our Albert Einstein. Now, I said that my favorite act was before in the asylum, but my favorite scene by far, one that I watched on repeat as a kid and almost wore the tape out. Yeah, videotapes, I'm pretty old. But this is just amazing. The loudness of the music that no one in this scene would have ever heard before. The fact that throughout the movie he's done these weird inventions, like inventing the electric guitar or the electric violin, inventing this loud music. The fact that this loud music and his inventions are the one thing that can drain energy out of an atomic chain reaction, it's ridiculous. But I love it. And just the energy that you feel in this scene, it's beautiful. Also, we do get my favorite Mary line with Einstein's reaction to that.
You are absorbing too much energy. You will be killed.
I'm all right, Mary. They're only electrons.
Alright, so Einstein pulls it off. He saves the world. I'm not going to show you absolutely everything from the ending because you need to watch it yourself. And by now, hopefully you're invested. Anyway, he saves the world. He returns to Tasmania as a hero because he made bubbled beer. He's got Mary by his side, and they basically just start playing music. He shows them his electric guitar, and then the credits roll. It's an amazing film. By writing this script over the past 2 days, I've watched this film twice. I am in no way sick of it. I've been watching this movie since I was probably 6 years old. It came out when I was 1. But yeah, it would have been something that my parents saw on TV or saw at some point, and although a little bit illegal, we taped it onto a VHS and I watched it all the time. I'm a fair bit older than that now, but I still watch it at least once a year or so. It is very hard to actually find this movie. There's been no Blu-ray release of it, so that's why some of this quality has been a bit poor, but this film's awesome. I bet you're wondering what happened to the leading man though. Where is Yahoo Serious now? Well, after a legal battle with the company Yahoo and doing only 3 movies. So there was Young Einstein, Reckless Kelly, and Mr. Accident. The third of which I haven't really watched or don't have fond memories of, but the first 2 are great. They were family movies to me. But what happened to him? So he kind of just disappeared after Mr. Accident and no one really heard of him. It wasn't until 2018 where he made an appearance. They had a 30th anniversary screening of this movie and he showed up for a Q&A panel. If I'd known that he was going to be there, I would have been there fangirling all over the place. But it's strange. When he was asked what he's been up to, he just remained fairly quiet and reserved. He didn't really want to say what he's been doing for the past basically 20-something years. I know he seems active and just very crazy when he's on camera, but he just seems like he could be a really shy guy who wants his privacy. Though he did say that he's been writing again and may want to make more movies soon. So this 2020 could be the return of Yahoo series, and I would love that. This movie is super important to me. Basically, the basis of my childhood and what I have fond memories of watching with my parents. Now, if you've been interested in anything you've seen in this video, from the little bits of humor or just going back in time to an 80s classic, well, classic to me, but seeing what 80s cinema was like in Australia at the time, please try find a copy. It's not on Blu-ray, it's on some streaming services in the US, but you can easily find a copy on DVD on Amazon. The quality's not great, but it is fantastic. So yeah, if you find yourself watching this movie, let me know what you think on Twitter. It is twitter.com/thedruidshow. Just hit the microphone, hopefully that doesn't come through. Anyway, my name is Drewid, and I will catch you later.